Well, hey, you guys, how's the day going? Are you surviving? Where are you right now? I would like to know. How many of you are in the car? Okay, 3 of you. How many of you are on the treadmill? 0. Okay, how many of you are hanging out with friends? Okay, 17. That sounds good. How many of you are at work and you should be doing something else? Oh, I'm not going to tell you how many lifted their hands right there. Welcome to the Connection Pointe Worldview Podcast. It's a podcast designed to help you as a parent or a guardian go deeper into places that your student has already gone. I'm here, as always, with Dr. Zach Brightenbach, and not as always, with Pastor Trey Shigley.
Hey.
They make up our Worldview department at Connection Pointe in the Indianapolis area, and thanks for being here, you guys, because I cannot pull this off without you. I don't know the stuff, and it would just be me sitting here talking about nothing for a while. So thanks for being here. You guys are working your way through a series with middle school and high school right now called Jesus Skeptic, based on Pastor John's book. John Dickerson wrote a book called Jesus Skeptic. You can get it anywhere that books are sold. This is lesson 3. Dr. Zach, you want to catch us up? What was the goal of this series again? What's the main goal of this third lesson in particular?
Yeah, the main goal of the series is just to show how Christianity has impacted the world. And we talked in lesson 1 about the internal part of that. How does Christianity and Jesus change you on the inside? How does it meet your needs and fulfill you like nothing else can? And then we moved in the last lesson into some of the external stuff that Christians following the example of Jesus have changed the world in a lot of ways. And we looked at things like starting hospitals and advancing medicine and advancing science, starting the biggest and best universities in the world, promoting education for all, that kind of thing. And so then today we're going to continue talking about some of the external impact that Christians have made, and we're going to talk about how Christians have upheld human rights for all people, promoted justice and that sort of thing for all kinds of people. So we're gonna hit on some of the history behind that.
Awesome. So let's start out with discussing that topic of justice, in particular how Christians have promoted it, a topic we hear about a lot in our culture. How do you define justice? Trey, you want to take that?
Yeah, so we do hear about justice a lot or injustice a lot. And it simply means just getting what you deserve. And that can kind of be the good things that you deserve and also the bad things or punishment or discipline that you deserve. That justice goes both ways. So it really means that you're treated the way you should be based on your God-given value and on the actions that you take. So that's what justice is. So injustice just means not getting justice, not getting what is right, not getting what is deserved. You're denied your God-given rights, or you're treated kind of unfairly. And so that's what we mean when we use the words justice and injustice.
Got it. So justice is emphasized a lot today in our culture, but that's always been the case throughout human history. Is that so?
No, it really hasn't been. When you look back in the history of the world, for example, most societies had slaves. Between 10 to 70% of most societies were made up of slaves. 40% of the world was a slave at the time when Jesus lived.
Jeez.
So it's not a rare thing. It's the norm, actually, that slavery has just been super common throughout history. Legal justice was also a rare thing for a lot of people, especially if you're a woman, if you're a foreigner, you're not a citizen of your country, right, or you're poor. We see throughout history that's just rare that you're going to have the same kind of fairness in the laws applied to you. For example, in ancient Babylon, around 1750 BC, there was a famous set of laws called the Code of Hammurabi, and it was one of the earliest written legal systems, but it treated people differently based on their social class. So rich people who broke the law often got away with things and had lighter punishments, while poor people and slaves had a lot harsher punishments, even for the same crime. So you see
So
that
nothing like today.
You see this over and over. And the idea of universal human rights is just a recent thing. In fact, it wasn't until 1948 that you see the first formal statement of universal human rights put in place at all. So it's just we take for granted that that this idea of, well, of course everyone's going to have human rights, but this is much more of a rarity in history than we might think.
Yeah, gosh, I totally take that for granted. I think it's important to appreciate how Christianity provides a powerful basis for upholding justice. Trey, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, when we think about justice today, we have this framework, and when we hear about how most of history has gone, we're like shocked and outraged. Like, how could people have lived that way? But we don't understand that we are living in a culture that's been so saturated with kind of the biblical view of justice that we think it's normal. But it's not been normal for all of history, and it's actually very uniquely from the Judeo-Christian worldview. And so if imagine a world without God. So there is no God, there's no afterlife, no final judgment. Humans are just evolved animals that happened, on accident. There really couldn't be justice. There would be no reason to think that everyone is valuable, or at least everyone's equally valuable. People wouldn't have the same moral rights. People wouldn't deserve equal treatment. Those who are strong would actually have kind of a evolutionary almost advantage, and you almost should eliminate kind of weaker genes or things that are defective to make sure that the genetic pool is more pure and all of those things. That would be a world without God. And you kind of need God as a standard of right and wrong, and as to know that you're going to meet someone after life who's going to judge all the things that you've done. And there's kind of this punishment and reward for good and bad things. But if Christianity is true, which we obviously believe it is, everyone has equal value, equal rights, deserves equal treatment, because everyone is made in the image of God. It's the very first chapter of the Bible in Genesis 1. God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them. And so from the Bible's perspective, we all have equal value, no matter what we have to offer to the world, no matter what we produce. And even in our culture today, we value people based on how much money they have, what they're able to do for us, how popular they are, how good they are at a sport. But God views everyone through a lens of we are each a masterpiece of his, and we all have equal value. And we're all people that Jesus loves enough to die for. And that is something that should give, like, if someone's listening to this and they think, man, I don't know if I have that much value. Let this be a reminder, like, Jesus pursued you and died for you and loved you that much. A few other things that we kind of get from the Bible and from a biblical worldview is that God doesn't care about the outward appearance. He cares about the heart. And so all these things that we judge people by, God isn't really impressed by or isn't tricked by. And then there's unity. Galatians 3:28 says, there's neither Greek nor Jew, there's neither slave nor free, there's no male and female, for you're all one in Christ Jesus. All these dividing lines that we use in society, it's not saying that those aren't real things, but it's saying that those don't need to divide us. We can have unity in Jesus. And then Jesus is this obvious example of living out justice for people. He showed love and respect to everyone, regardless of race or gender or status. The story of the Samaritan woman is like a great example.
Right.
She was shocked. She said to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a woman of Samaria? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans." So she's shocked that he's treating her with kindness, with love, respect, as an equal. And God is perfectly just, and he calls us to be just as well. And that's kind of how all these people we're going to talk about that did such amazing things in the world of justice, they were driven by the commands of Scripture. God commands us to uphold justice. He commands us to not neglect justice to the poor and to the orphan. All throughout the Bible, don't favor certain people over others. And so the Bible is full of not just reasons why we should be treated fairly, examples of Jesus doing it, but also commands that if you are a Christian and take your faith seriously, you should be very concerned about treating other people in the way that they deserve.
So because the Bible commands us to uphold justice, many Christians have actually led the way in standing up for others so that they have justice, right? So, Dr. Zach, can you talk about how Christians have fought against slavery?
Yeah, there have been so many that have, and like we said earlier, slavery has just been the norm in every major civilization until just the last couple hundred years. And most of those people who were the leading abolitionists, the leading people who were getting rid of, abolishing slavery, were Christians. So you got people like William Wilberforce, there's an amazing movie actually called Amazing Grace, if you've never seen it, that talks about the story of William Wilberforce. I've seen it a couple times. We even saw it in one of my seminary classes some years ago. And I think it'd be an awesome thing for you to watch with your student. But it tells about Wilberforce, who is this British politician, and he saw ending slavery as his mission in life. At first, when he became a Christian, he thought about just getting out of politics because he's like, well, maybe I should just devote myself to serving God. And he was convinced by others, well, no, you can serve God and have a calling in politics. And so he did that, and he made his ultimate mission in politics to end slavery. And so he fought against this. He tried to educate people. He tried to get laws passed in England to end the slave trade. And eventually, just before his death, this happened. And the British Parliament, just 3 days before he died in 1833, passed a law that began the process of freeing all the enslaved people in the British lands, which was over 800,000 slaves. And so he just had this massive role in this. So it's a great story. Another person we could talk about is Thomas Clarkson, who was also one of the most important leaders in the movement to end slavery in England. So like Wilberforce, he was this devout Christian, and he believed that slavery was this terrible sin against God and against other human beings. And so he was more of a researcher and a writer and an activist, and he tried to help people see the evils of slavery and show them the cruelty of it. And so he would speak publicly, and he'd organize these abolitionist groups, and he just really helped to try to educate people, even kind of showing them some of the tools that were used to punish slaves. And he took people on board slave ships and showed them the conditions for themselves, just helped them to really see the evils of the thing firsthand. You got Frederick Douglass, who was a slave himself in America. And he lived in the 1800s and was just a great speaker and writer about the evils of slavery, showing how if you're a true Christian, you really can't support this. Just biblically, it does not line up with Scripture and with how you are to treat people. And so he was just a powerful speaker. William Lloyd Garrison, who lived in the 1800s as well, really fought for abolition. He started an anti-slavery newspaper called The Liberator, and helped start the American Anti-Slavery Society, and just did a ton of good things as well. And he was motivated by his Christian faith. We could even talk about Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yeah.
And this just really opened people's eyes and helped them see how evil slavery is. In fact, it said that Lincoln met her and said to her, there's this famous quote, so you're the little lady who wrote the book that started this great war, right? Talking about the Civil War, because she stirred people up, right? To say, wait, we can't just be silent about this issue. This is a big deal. And so beyond abolishing slavery, Christians have played a big role since slavery was abolished in this country, just in the civil rights movement in America. And so we can think about people like John Lewis, who died in 2020. He was a Baptist preacher's son. He was a lifelong civil rights activist. He grew up in Alabama. He spoke at the March on Washington the same day as Martin Luther King Jr. spoke, and he was just brutally beaten during the Selma March, the Bloody Sunday. We could talk about Rosa Parks, who's just famous for refusing to give up her bus seat and became a civil rights activist, and also as a devout Christian. Just a lot of examples we could look to where Christians have not only been promoting the end of slavery, but just equal rights for people and ending racism in America. Or, I don't think we're ever going to stamp it out, but trying to change the laws, eliminate these Jim Crow laws, supporting the integration into schools and all the rest that Christians led the way in many ways.
It's so powerful and so important. Christians have also made a huge difference in standing up for women's rights too. So Trey, can you discuss that a bit?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of, like when we learn in history books, we hear a lot about slavery stuff, but there's also a lot in women's rights, and Christians have led the way in a lot of ways. Sojourner Truth, she was a former slave who gave powerful speeches about slavery, but then also about the equal value of women. And she quoted from the Bible all the time in her speeches. She had a really famous speech called "Ain't I a Woman?" where she kind of challenged people's kind of preconceived ideas of what a woman can or can't do. And then there's Florence Nightingale. She founded modern nursing and trained other women to be nurses. And it wasn't just that she showed, she can do things that men can do too. She vastly improved the medical system. And because of her work, she changed the whole industry of how we take care of patients and how we keep charts and how we eliminate disease and infection and cross-contamination. She was just brilliant medically, but also organizationally. And she kind of shattered some kind of stereotypes and proved that women can make a big impact in the workforce. And she did so much of what she did was out of her belief that God had called her to serve in that way. It wasn't just that she happened to be a Christian. She did the things that she did because she was a Christian.
Yeah, that's important.
And then we've got people like, I'm going to mess this name up, Pandita Ramabai. I don't know if that's right. Dr. Zach, you can correct me.
Pretty good.
Nailed it? Okay. Maybe. Provided widows and orphan girls with education and escape from poverty in India. And so she was really helping people, so many, especially women and children, girls in India were left without education, left on the streets. She would take them in, give them an education. She also helped with Bible translation because she wanted them to know the Bible and that God loved them and how to follow God and know about him. And then Hannah More helped start schools for poor girls in England, and she promoted education, Christian morality as an author. And so all of these kind of different areas where women were kind of held back or oppressed, Christian women and men really helped push forward and fight for the rights of the women in their societies.
Well, you ended the lesson then by talking about how Christians have also done a lot for the disabled, for children, the poor, the homeless. Unpack that for us, if you would, Dr. Zach.
Yeah, it's not just like ending slavery and women. There's all kinds of people that Christians have stood up for. John Langdon Down is an example of a Christian who stood up for the rights of disabled people, and it's actually from his last name Down that we get Down syndrome.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and so he started a special home that's pretty well known called Norman's Field, and this is for disabled people. And in the past, people with disabilities were often just sort of abandoned or mocked or hidden away. But he really, as a Christian, thought that that's not right. We need to fight for their rights and stand up for treating them in a humane and loving way. And so Langdon Down, he was a Christian doctor, and he had just helped people that had mental and developmental problems, disabilities, especially the sort of people that society would ignore a lot. And he just showed a lot of compassion. At Normansfield, they had clean living conditions, a place where these people could actually be educated, just be loved and supported. And so it was just a great model of how you're supposed to care for those who are disabled in society. Christians have cared for children. George Mueller is a famous example of starting orphanages, became a Christian, and he didn't always have a lot of resources and money, and he just relied a lot on prayer. He's very famous for praying and God just providing for these children in these orphanages. But Christians have started a lot of orphanages. They've fought human trafficking. There's a lot of organizations that protect the unborn. So there's a lot of Christian groups that are just leading the way when it comes to protecting children. And the same is true of the poor and those who are homeless. Christians really care about restoring people, and that's a biblical concept. And so you look at the Salvation Army, the YMCA, a lot of soup kitchens and homeless shelters started by Christians. And so I don't think it's an accident that Christians have done so much in these areas. They're following what the Bible teaches. So we really wrapped up with just encouraging students to go and change the world in these ways, to follow the example of Jesus and so many Christians that have gone before and live for justice and mercy, right? Really care about people and want to make a difference in all these ways. And that might be your calling in life, right? It doesn't have to be as a pastor. Like, remember, William Wilberforce realized that just being in politics and ending slavery is his calling. And so maybe for your student, just caring for human rights and justice is their calling as well.
That's so good. Trey, as we wrap up, what's a good question that parents might use to discuss this particular lesson with them?
Yeah, well, I would first of all reiterate, I would definitely encourage parents to watch with their kids the Amazing Grace movie, because it really is powerful and shows a great example of taking your faith seriously and just showing how someone grapples through that. But a question you could use when talking with your student is just talking about how, okay, Christians throughout history have been influenced by their faith to fight against injustice. So how should following Jesus change the way that your student stands up for people who are hurting or mistreated? Just ask them, what does that look like in your life today?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I can't thank you guys enough. This is such an important, powerful series. Again, if you want the full deep dive on this, you can get Pastor John Dickerson's book, Jesus Skeptic, anywhere that you buy books. Please know we're praying for you. We're praying for your student. We love you guys a lot. If there's anything that you need, you can connect with us at connectionpointe.org. That's point with an E, connectionpointe.org. Reach out to us, look us up, find information there, click on the Worldview tab, and you can get a whole lot more info. Otherwise, we'll be back soon with the final episode in this particular series, Jesus Skeptic, coming up soon.